Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Billen-Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Furber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode.
So, Martin, are we going to get on with the episode?
Yeah, we're going to get on with the episode. Yeah, I thought we could chat this week about something that is, well, it's related to hypnosis. It's related to the things hypnosis can help with, but not so much weight management, weight control, but actual eating disorders.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it might be good for our listeners and viewers to explain a few of the different types of eating disorders as well, because there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Well, I mean, you and I both probably there isn't a hypnotist in the world who hasn't been asked to help somebody lose weight. That's the standard one is lose weight, and the vast majority of people I see have some form of binge eating. That's the most common. There's generalized just overeating, period. But there's also this emotional need to eat because you're eating your emotions, as I have told you before. So as you, that get home from, I've had a crappy day at work, I'm going to eat a pint of ice cream, and you're not thinking about it. That kind of stuff, which is a disorder of sorts. You need to help the person find other ways to respond to their frustration, anger, and annoyance. So you've had some experience with binge eating, right? That's what you attributed your own weight issues to?
Well, yeah. Only with hindsight looking back, though, I didn't realize it at the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, as you know, I struggled with my weight for decades, literally for decades. But yeah, and when I look at the periods of time in which I put the weight back on, it wasn't a question of, it just crept up on me by eating, say, maybe 500 calories a day more than I needed to, and have the weight creep up on me, as happens with some people over a period of time. This was a question of I'd just start binging, and
were you doing it? Can you think back? Were you doing it in response to a particular trigger, or would it just? I've been good for a week. Forget it.
There'd be that kind of thing, yeah. But also, it was a question of looking at the patterns. I was either all my adult life either gaining weight or losing weight. I'd never stayed the same. I was, once I'd get to a certain point, and that point each time was higher than that point the time before, i.e. 17 stone, I need to lose weight. 18 stone, I need to lose weight, or back up to 19 stone, so on. But it was
stone for the American viewers is 14 pounds.
14 pounds
to a stone.
Yeah, so 20 stone, 280 pounds. So it was like I would always get to a certain point and then think, right, I've got to lose the weight, and I would. But then as soon as I'd got to an acceptable weight, I would just revert straight back to the old patterns. And it wasn't a question of just portion size, for example, or, as I say, eating just a few too many calories a day over a period of time and have it creep up on me. I would binge eat, yeah, and I would enjoy it. It gave me great comfort, I suppose, looking back.
And that is now a recognized eating disorder. It wasn't for a long time. We referred to it that way, but it's official. It's in the books. There's a code for it. It is something that your physician can help you with. And with all of these eating disorders, you should get checked out by your doctor, because all of these weight fluctuations and issues can lead to problems, and they can be coming from problems. So it is something a hypnotist can help you with, but you do need to make sure your basic health is okay first, and to be adjusting your eating with medical advice. So binge eating for me seems to be related to bulimia. In that is what bulimics do. You eat more than you want to. It may not necessarily be an inappropriate amount of calories that you're taking in, but you then vomit up the food that you've taken in so that you can negate it.
That's the difference between the two, isn't it? With bulimia, it's the eating and then the purging, whereas with binge eating disorder, there is no purging. And also with bulimia, of course, it may not just be inducing vomiting, it may be the overuse of laxatives.
Yes, also. So, and again, that can lead to all sorts of electrolyte imbalances and all sorts of problems.
I would imagine it can cause all kinds of other digestive problems, yeah.
And problems with your teeth. If you're using vomiting as the method.
Yeah, with the acid. Yeah.
So again, hypnosis can help because it can help with the weird messages that are for some reason in your head. But again, needs to be done with the assistance of doctors to make sure, not that there would ever be a reason for a medical professional to say, oh, you shouldn't use hypnosis to help you with this, but you don't want to be ignoring the one and substituting. This is not alternative care. This is additional care in all of these situations. Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just assuming then a client comes to us with a diagnosis from their doctor for binge eating disorder, how would hypnotherapy help them? Because I think our viewers and listeners would like to know that.
I think it is because you're doing the binge eating. So we're flipping again. I was trying to move past that. But binge eating, it would help you with the emotional, because you're responding to some sort of emotional thing, whether it's because you're feeling deprived because you've been dieting for 2 weeks, or you're responding to been dieting for 2 weeks and standing on the scale and finding it hasn't moved a jot. So then you just say, oh, forget it. What's the point? Or it's because you've been really good about your weight for 2 weeks and you went out with your best friend and she was having ice cream and you thought, oh, well, I will. And then you get home and you say, well, I've done it now anyway, so I might as well. And then you go off on
I've
3 packs of biscuits.
Now that last couple of sentences is a typical event in my life frequently, up until a few years ago, obviously.
Right. So how did hypnosis help you get over that? You're a living case study.
Yeah, I suppose I am, but it was self-hypnosis, remember? Even though, of course, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I think it stems from the actual studying of the brain that went with it when I started to study self-hypnosis, because I read a lot of books about the sort of methods behind it rather than reading a book which hypnotized me as such. Although, depending on how you define hypnosis, focused attention, they all did that. It was looking at a lot of the reasons behind people's weight gain, actually. But again, it wasn't specified as eating disorders as such. It's only now, with the knowledge I have looking back, yes, it was definitely binge eating disorder. How did it help? I think deep down, it gave me the confidence to believe in myself. That was the sort of method I went through with self-hypnosis. With understanding the language patterns, with learning about how the power of positive suggestions can work, self-affirmations, etc. It was a matter of starting to believe in myself and starting to realize that what I was doing wasn't good for me. And why did I? Because I never at the time thought I was deliberately harming myself. As I did when I smoked cigarettes, I knew I was deliberately harming myself. So it
now, you didn't recognize as heavy as you were that was not good for your health?
On some level, yes, but on other levels, it was convincing myself, or maybe this is just the excuse people look for. I was convincing myself it was good for my mental well-being. It made me feel better.
The eating. But the being heavy.
But the weight didn't, yeah. So then you start with the.
But now we had so. Before we started this, of course, we chatted a little bit. But this is very disorganized way of putting something together, but we did have a little bit of a chat to say where we were going. You did say that you felt protected by the exercise, and that's something very much, very many women, they are at some level protecting themselves from, because they can blame Nobody's asked me out on a Saturday night for X number of months. You can blame it on the weight, so that's useful at some level, some secondary agenda there. Or it's to protect you from having to deal with sexuality or all sorts of.
Yeah, with me looking back again over the years, it wasn't to protect me so much in terms of sexuality and self-acceptance. I'd done that at a very early age. It was more to do with protecting me from being gay bashed, for want of a better thing, because that happened a lot in my late teens.
People would not, you felt that it protected you from being attacked, or during the attack because there was extra padding?
Well, moreover during the attack, I suppose. But it did happen quite a lot. I mean, that's it's ancient history now. Thankfully, things have moved on and times have changed. But looking back, that's probably where it stemmed from. But I tend to look forward these days and not look back and overanalyze. It's happened, it's been, it's gone.
As we've pointed out, that reliving trauma reliving trauma is not useful, but it may be for the history of the trauma may be helpful for somebody else. So sorry.
Absolutely. No problem. But it's weird, like I say, looking back, exactly why and wherefore, I'm not entirely sure. It was only when, as I say, I started studying hypnosis, I realized, exactly what I was trying to achieve, because this is the thing. I think this is the point we need to get across to everybody. With all eating disorders, it's rarely actually about the food.
Most never about the food.
It's not about the actual food. It's the emotional things behind it, or the control. If we look at, before we move on, maybe have a look at anorexia.
Yes, anorexia is definitely about control. There's now, I say that there are also people who need to stay a certain weight. Gymnasts famously.
Yes. Because
they start at pre-puberty, and once you hit puberty, all sorts of things happen to your balance, and not abnormal, but your center of gravity changes when there's fat distribution on the body, and muscle distribution for that matter. So I don't know about the male gymnast world, but the female definitely. And there's also the fact that if you seriously don't eat, you don't get your periods. You don't have to. There's all sorts of deep. So it's not. The point of this is just to underline again, all of these things need to be medically handled, as well as using hypnosis because there is and most hypnotists are not psychologists, or at least not, at the doctoral level, where you need a deep understanding of so many different psychological things. All those things work together. So what I'm really happy about my practice, I now have psychologists who've worked with people who now send them to me specifically for their hypnosis, and I can send them back. So, and I think that, again, that is what we really want people to understand. Both hypnotists, who alarmingly sometimes will believe at face value what the parent of a child in particular will tell them, and my doctor said it was fine, is not a diagnosis. You want to know why this thing is happening, and to make sure that there isn't something else underneath it, because for both physicians and therapists, it is do no harm. You can't cover something up. You have to make sure that you're really working with it. But there's no reason that a hypnosis can't play a major part in it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, looking at anorexia, for example, it is a mental health condition. Yeah, okay. It's also the mental health condition with the highest death rate.
Yes.
Which is a surprising fact. And given that fact, that I would say that emphasizes the need to, I would say, work, hand in hand with somebody's GP if they've been diagnosed with anorexia and they're being treated, hopefully, and that person comes to one of us for help. In what ways would hypnosis help somebody who is dealing with anorexia? For me, I would say, well, it can certainly remove the stress, or help to remove the stress, which they must be undergoing. They must be experiencing a lot of stress to be anorexic on some level.
It would again, it would depend on the individual, and talking with their physician and talking
Yeah.
to, it's a community of people working with them.
Yeah,
Usually,
absolutely.
if you're anorexic, you need your physician or psychiatrist. You need a dietitian or nutritionist, depending on what language you use in your country, even when you're speaking the same one.
Oh, that's an
and
interesting one
and
over
a
here.
therapist.
Yeah.
So, and that's only 3 of the people. Sometimes it requires physical therapy because there's muscle loss. There's all sorts of other things that can go wrong. There are. It can be quite extensive. So it's not. It unfortunately is another one of those words that people got hold of and say, "Oh, she's anorexic." No. Yeah. Yes, you can look that way because you can be too thin, although once upon a time they said you could never be too thin.
Yeah.
Or too rich. But that is not true. But it's a medical diagnosis. Bulimia is a medical diagnosis. Binge eating to some extent is a medical diagnosis. And it is diagnosable now. If you always binge at Thanksgiving, but the rest of the year you don't overdo it, that's probably not diagnosed. It's not a diagnosis.
Letting yourself go once in a while.
That's letting yourself go, exactly, and making yourself uncomfortable, which is, of course, the other thing that you should try not to. You should eat so you're not quite full.
But just getting back to what we were talking about just a second ago, because as usual we go all over the place. You were talking about different things if people binge, purge, and generally if they have an eating disorder, all the other things that it can do. I mean, it can mess up your gallbladder. Yeah. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, it can lead to all kinds of blood pressure. I mean, there's a good one hypnotherapy helps with, though.
Oh, blood pressure, yes.
Oh yeah, blood pressure.
but most is idiopathic or familial and is not related to organic dysfunction. It can cause it, but it doesn't occur from that. And again, don't come to me because you went to CVS and checked your blood pressure and decided you wanted me to lower it. I'll be happy to, but you've got to go to your doctor and make sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing we need to get across, isn't it, to people? Yeah, hypnotherapy can help with an awful lot of things, but it is absolutely no substitute ever for going to see your doctor if you've got something wrong with you, something you're unsure of.
Yeah, and that it's a complementary, it's an additional thing you can do that will help you, because for everything, even if your illness is not being caused by anxiety or stress or whatever you want to call it, the illness will be causing those things. So really, if all hypnotists ever did was relieve people's anxiety, it would be helpful.
Well, yeah. Well, as you say, any medical condition can be exacerbated by stress. Yeah, anything.
And any medical condition can cause it. Particularly in this country, we've got to figure out how to pay for it.
Yeah, you've got to work out how to pay for it. Yeah. Yeah. What happens over there if somebody's like half dead in a car crash and they get shipped to the hospital? Do they get the credit card out of the wallet or something first? Or
no, we are required under EMTALA, Emergency Medical Treatment Act. Probably liability, but anyway, you do have to see people who are in active labor or have had an accident or appear to have any. So basically, if you present yourself at the emergency room, you'll get a once over to make sure there's nothing. They would then tell you can leave, but almost always they will see you and then they will hound you for a long time for the money.
Yeah.
Irritable bowel syndrome, which is not in the same category as eating disorders, but is certainly gastric. That is also famously helped by hypnosis because there's a huge stress and emotional component to it.
Yeah, well, IBS, treatment for IBS with hypnotherapy is recommended over here by NICE.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they won't pay for it.
But they won't pay for it. Which is a bit of an oxymoron, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean with IBS.
Well, because my concern actually when we have, this really works for hypnosis. My concern is if the insurance companies start to pick it up, they'll make everybody go to hypnosis before they get treatment. And that may not be the best thing for that particular client. Some people don't respond well to hypnosis for lots of different reasons, like they're not on board. They have to be on board.
So. Okay. I've just thought of something. bang on topic. Okay.
There's a change.
Yeah. Bang on topic. Okay. Quick explanation. You need to either confirm or
Deny.
Deny this. Okay, with IBS, with some IBS, it's to do with muscle contractions, isn't it, in the digestive system, the bowel, whatever. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So people may say, how can hypnotherapy control a muscle spasm like that? Okay.
Well,
or go on, give me the correct name for it.
Peristalsis is the name of the contraction. I don't know the answer to that specific question, but we know that hypnosis, you can lower your blood pressure.
Yeah, no.
And lower your heart rate.
yeah, but okay. So how can hypnosis, i.e., the power of our thoughts, control that? Little comparison. I mean, feel free to argue with me on this one. But when we watch that video of the roller coaster or of the person jumping off a building, we feel a physical flutter in our stomach, and that's just from thought, isn't it? Just from what we've seen.
Everything.
That is an actual
everything
physical reaction. Well, that is a physical reaction from what we're thinking. If something really frightens us, we can start shaking. That's a physical reaction from what we're thinking, from what we're seeing. So just thinking that, control all the physical movements within the body from our thoughts. Yeah. Now just throw that one in there as a good.
Most of the IBS protocols are several weeks long. It's definitely not something you go and say, okay, here's a nice relaxation tape. Go away. You're all fixed now. It's multifactorial, and there are specific things, specific intervals at which you do, but it's very useful, even if NICE won't pay for it.
Yeah. No, it's a minimum of 6 sessions with me for IBS.
Because over what period of time?
Over about 3 months.
Yeah, so it says 12 weeks.
Yeah, because it's generally a long-standing condition. Nobody sort of has IBS for a couple of weeks and thinks, oh, I'll go and get hypnotherapy. They've usually been affected by it for a long period of time. And let's face it, IBS can have serious disruptions to your life depending on the nature of the IBS. With some people, it's a constipated effect. With others, it's the opposite. That can be seriously detrimental to somebody's quality of life, can't it? If they've got to work how far they are away from the nearest bathroom every time they go out the front door. Yeah, without being
a lot of conditions require that. Age included. But we've gone all over the place even more than we usually do.
Well, no, we've not, because it's all to do with digestive, with eating disorders.
And going to your doctor first, making sure everything's
good. It was you that threw IBS in, not me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to finish this one off with that disclaimer. Any medical condition, you need to go and see your GP. Hypnotherapy can very probably help with a lot of things, given that anything can be exacerbated by stress, and hypnotherapy certainly helps with that.
Yeah. One of the disclaimers you see on every diet book and diet article and diet everything else, you will see a disclaimer there somewhere that this is just for your information, and really before you make any changes, you should see your doctor. And almost everybody blows that off.
Yeah.
Very few. Well, partly because you can't get a flipping appointment. We tend to be, I read this article, I'm going to start tomorrow, and you can't get an appointment with your doctor for 2 or 3 weeks. So if you have a significant issue with weight or disordered eating of any kind, make an appointment with your doctor. You can chat with a hypnotist while you're waiting for the appointment, but you can't start a therapy course until you know that there isn't something, which is why I like the fact that I do ask all my clients to give me permission to talk directly to their physician, so that I would tell them I was going to, but I would make sure that we were hearing the same stories that we were evaluating. No matter what your issue is, make sure there isn't something else organic going on, but psychological help is going to be beneficial anyway.
Yeah.
And as we're hypnotists and not psychologists, with the exception of your qualification, we're primarily hypnotists. We would use that to address those background little voices in your head, like, you've had a crummy day, go ahead, have the ice cream. And the slippery slope stuff, like, well, I've blown it now, I might just as well carry on, what's the point?
Yeah, that's the slippery slope stuff. That's
Yeah,
hypnosis can definitely, absolutely help with that.
Yeah.
Sure, it can. That is part of it. I've been there so many times over the years. But absolutely, it can be helped. I mean, my weight's been constant now for what, 5 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Must be. We've been talking for 2.
Yeah. Excuse me. I can actually, without identifying the person, I had I want to lose weight person. It's extremely opinionated about what that person can and cannot do, and will not change. And we did a quick hypnosis session in the office, and then I sent an audio. They had my standard advice, eat 3 small meals, blah, 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 blah. And that person came back to me the following week and said, I only eat 2 meals a day, and I can't possibly change that. And came back to me the following week and said, 3 meals a day, small ones. I love how people have asked for your help and then they're kind of annoyed when it works. Have you ever had that where I didn't have the client, but a friend who did, who helped the person quit smoking, and I was so pissed off. I can't smoke anymore. It's so strange.
No, that happened to me. I've had people who say to me, I don't have any trouble sleeping. I don't have any trouble with this, with that, with the other. It's not what you're here to see me for then, because I'm saying these things will help with that issue. And then it's like, I mean, we never do a I told you so routine with our clients, do we? It wouldn't be nice anyway. And let's face it, we well, it ain't nice. So but I have had a couple of I told you so moments, over the years. I mean, most people, this is something I do find strange just before we wrap up. Most people sort of seem to say to me, it can't really be that simple when I say to them, everything starts with a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
The minute you start to sleep better, you can focus better, everything will appear better. The way forward will appear far more clearly once you're getting a few good nights sleep. And
that's another one that
say it's nothing to, no, it's not that, that, it can't possibly be that. Of course it is.
Yeah, I have the same thing. People tell me they don't have a sleep issue. And yet when they see me the second time, they first thing they say is, I'm sleeping so much better.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Because you don't realize, it's like, I've always had a headache. When the headache goes away, oh gosh, that's you just learn to cope with whatever your situation is.
That's it. I think with some people, it's that long since they've had a good night of proper, restful, really beneficial sleep that they've forgotten what it is.
Yeah.
And when they do experience it again after a first couple of sessions or after listening to the audio, it's like, wow. And then, then they understand, what you're talking about. And on that note, we could finish for today.
Even though listening to this might sound a little questionable.
No, we always know what we're talking about, but we always go all over the place. If our listeners aren't used to that by now, they never will be. Sure. Denise, I'll catch you on the next one. We've got a guest, but I haven't got a clue who it is.
Okay.
Catch you on the next one. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.